This interview was carried out as part of my video, The Indie Dev Cheat Code, about the double threat approach of being an indie developer and a content creator together. If you find this video interesting, be sure to check out the main video and the other interviews. And of course, show the devs some love. They earned it.
Right, okay, so first question is, do you make a point of carving out time to make content?
Oh yeah, my content schedule right now is I spend every Friday sort of in the morning sort of planning out content, and then in the evening, like after lunch, I spend time recording, and then editing I kind of do scattered throughout the week. There's not really a chunk for that, but and this content schedule has obviously evolved over time. I find that it's a little bit overwhelming to do things like stream often, because something like that takes hours and hours and hours. Whereas if I just sort of am more strategic about the content I'm making, I get a lot more time back for myself. So that's what I've been doing currently, and it's working really well.
Do you put any thought into like a kind of brand, like the Sympathey brand sort of thing? Or do you just like, this is me, away we go?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I was interested in making content like as far back as when I was a kid. So it's always been like a evolving brand, right? Obviously, like I'm glad the videos I made when I was 13 never saw the light of day. But the Sympathy brand really started when I was still in college, and I was, streaming Overwatch. I created a color palette immediately. I made a logo. It was really bad. I didn't even have a camera. And so that was like my starting brand. But I feel like if you want to do something, you should just do it and not wait for like the perfect branding or the perfect equipment. So I kind of just did it. And I do look back at the footage. I think I sent you some clips.
Better luck next time. Welcome. Meat. Cheese. Pickle. Tomato. Onion. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now that's how you make a sandwich.
I've never seen anything like this. Maybe if I just click here. Wait, what's happening with my computer? Oh dear. Maybe additional fiction. Oh dear. Where did my files go? I've never seen anything like this. Oh, that was my favorite picture.
Get them kills. Nobody saw that. The amazing jump technique 3000
Zenyatta's down.
has never failed before. It's foolproof.
He just reflected my... Genji, very smart. But I see you are not as smart as me. Prepare to meet your fate. Whoa! Whoa! I probably shouldn't have done that. Regrets.
He's gonna think I'm a criminal, which is exactly what I am. But I don't want him to know I'm a criminal. I am a criminal now. A criminal pony. A smooth criminal.
And this is an electronic drum set. It's exactly like the drums. And I'm freestyling. And at the end, I had applause, okay? There's a crowd around me at this arcade. We're gonna have some fun. Oh my gosh, did you see that bottle cap? It just poltergeist. And right now the tilting controls don't work. So you have to control it with your thumb. But I don't know if you can see, let me tap more cargo. I can make the cargo escape. So can you see how it's escaping up the top there? Yeah. Run away, little cargo! Yeah, okay, so now you see the problem that I'm gonna be trying to fix. The problem is that with this aspect ratio, I'm not familiar with Unity 3D so much, so...
It means that with the right computer algorithms,
I can hack you back in time. Just like a time machine. Well then, it's hacking time.
Oh my goodness, 0 by 7, thank you so much for resubbing. Welcome back to the Bug Club. Holy cow. 14 months, oh my goodness. This song called Disco Snails stuck in my head. It's hilarious. Yeah. So I think I got this. So player state equals breached. Disco Snail, you love that song? It is so stuck in my head, it's not even funny. Disco Snails, they're off to San Francisco where the disco's off the rail. They thought she's a bright young lady. Exactly. They thought I was a bright young lady. And now look at me. Now look at me. I'm a freaking lamp. You know? People are going to come and be like, what the heck is this stream? And I'm going to be like, it's a lamp stream. It's the best lamp stream ever. Best lamp stream ever. Are you using something to generate the mouth animations? Wait, what? This is my normal mouth. Could a mouth animation do this? Ugh. I'm leaving forever. I'm making a video game in 14 days. Day 10. I did a lot today. You can jump. You can become liquid. You can wall jump. You can become liquid. If you become liquid, you can pass through certain materials. Oh no, I can't get through. Just kidding. I'm liquid. If you pick up this little ball, it unlocks all of the doors. Ta-da! I made a cannon. You can become liquid. Follow me and you might see the completed that I found on the internet. Part 3. The only goal of this puzzle game is to touch light. When I move, I lose this water value. Oh, wow. Oh, I like this. All right, so if I go diagonally, collect the water, and touch light, we doing it. It's kind of like, as a player, I am drawing my own flower, and I can make whatever shape I want as long as I get to the end. And I cringe watching me in college play Skyrim. Even my early dev streams, like right when I graduated, I look at myself and I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm being me, but also you change over time. And I think that content changes over time. So the brand, I always kind of think about the brand, but it's something that's been evolving. Obviously now I'm a lamp. I didn't intend to be a lamp. But that's currently me, and who knows, maybe human me will come back in the future.
So some YouTubers go through a full. I should make the distinction here. When I say content creator, it doesn't necessarily mean YouTube. It could be YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, a tweet.
Yeah.
You know, anything that you think of when you think of content. So some YouTubers / long form content creators, or even short form content creators, go through a script writing process. Others just hit stream and then clip something out of it at a later date. Do you fall anywhere on that spectrum? Well, I mean, I assume you do, but like whereabouts?
Yeah, I think that currently I don't script things, but that's because I find that like I'm really bad at reading a script. I feel like I sound a little bit robotic, you know, when I'm not talking off the cuff. So, and most of my content right now is just short form. And I find that works better for me because I can just have my game in the background and make some comments like, hey, this is some code I wrote and this is some stuff I'm doing. You know, tune in next time and I'll show you how it evolves. Or if I'm playing somebody's game jam game, I can just make off the cuff things like, wow, isn't it crazy that this game uses your voice to control a bee? I've played a game like that before, and it's more fun to be a little bit more improv for me.
How distinct do you see different platforms? So, like, the obvious examples are like YouTube Shorts versus TikTok, or YouTube Shorts versus Instagram Reels, but you could also answer that as like Twitch versus YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, I think that the audience is different on all the platforms. I've made YouTube videos, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and I've Twitch streamed. I started out as a Twitch streamer, so I would say that the audiences you get on all the platforms are different. You can sort of feel the difference even in the styles of the comments you get. I find that, Twitch tends to be a little bit more tight knit. There's a little bit more like a stronger sense of community, I would say. Whereas sort of like asynchronous content like TikTok and YouTube, it's a little bit of a different content audience relationship sort of, but I enjoy them all. So
do you try and take advantage of trends at all? Like, do you see a trend happening on TikTok, for example, because they seem to be more pronounced when they happen on TikTok, and think I'll get in on that, or is it just not a thought that you have?
Yeah, when if you look at my early TikToks, I used to use like the TikTok sounds, and I was like, oh my god, I'm a lamp and I love dancing, so I can to whatever song I can just like dance to whatever song is trending. But it goes back to that question you actually asked about brand. If you're doing trends, at least for me, I find that that's not really my brand. I'm more of kind of a, game designer type person. So me dancing to music doesn't really get a lot of views, but I still did it because, I don't know, I thought it was fun.
That's good. That's a consistent answer that a lot of people have had, so that's useful for the video. I was worried at the start that everybody's going to say something wildly different and it's going to be impossible to wrangle a cohesive message out of it.
I believe it.
So anyone on YouTube or Twitch or anyone on the internet knows how rough it can be sometimes. Do you have a strategy or a policy or anything for dealing with negative engagement?
I think it's really hard. So I used to, for context, when I first started Twitch streaming, nobody watched me. For like a good year and a half, I had 2 average viewers and I was one of them. So I didn't really have to deal with negative comments because nobody was there. But the second I kind of switched to, hey, I'm going to start coding and showing my games live, I did get sort of that small streamer audience. And instantly, like, I think the first day I streamed game development, 2 people came into my chat and they were like, shut the hell up, you stupid B word. You're not a real coder. Go make me a sandwich. And I was like, bruh, I'm just trying to make this projectile work. So I don't know. I've always had really thick skin. So maybe I'm not the best example, but I kind of think of, negative comments as like an arena, right? I kind of picture on the internet, there's this arena and people who step into the center and put themselves out there and make something are in the arena. And a lot of people who make negative comments aren't in the arena. So for me, it's just always been much easier to brush off negative comments that aren't coming from inside the arena, right? They're sort of passive spectators. They're not really, being vulnerable. So that's kind of my attitude and take towards it.
That is an amazing answer. That might be my favorite answer to that question so far. Thank you. So on that note, what would you say the hardest part about being a content creator is?
Oh, I think maybe the hardest part about making content is sort of like finding your niche. And this can sort of go with, okay, so the internet can kind of be clicky sometimes, right? There's clicks. If you're, even within a niche as small as game dev, there are clicks. There's, I'm making sort of tutorial help for new programmer niche. There's, I'm making really informative, cool devlog niche. There's, I'm sitting here coding, chilling, and we're learning together niche, right? There's little niches. And I think the hardest part is maybe trying to force yourself into a niche that you don't fit in, or maybe that also means associating and trying to do collabs with people that you don't necessarily click with. And then with that comes, sometimes there's like pulling apart. Like you might start out making content and you're in like the small streamer group where like everybody has like 10 viewers, and then some people go up, some people go down. And I'd say the hardest part is it's definitely not looking at the numbers, right? Because if you kind of put all of the value of the things you're creating, or if you put numbers as the metric for the value of the things you create, it kind of does put like a sour taste in your mouth, right? Like you're not really necessarily letting yourself be happy about what you're making. You have that sort of metric. So I think trying not to let that try not to let that ruin your enjoyment of creating content, because you wouldn't be creating content if you didn't enjoy that process,
Okay. So last question for the content creator questions. If you could only improve one thing about your content creation side of things, like what would that one thing be? And you can't just say more
man.
views.
Oh, I would just say like I should definitely hire an editor. I'm terrible at editing. I do all of my own editing for the shorts, for the long form videos, but I feel like I'm maybe getting better, but yeah, definitely like not doing it all alone is what I would say.
So indie dev questions. We're flying through these indie dev questions.
Oh, yeah.
How important would you say technical ability is for somebody who wants to be a game developer? All of when I say a game developer in this interview, it's always indie game developer. Specifically, just in case that makes a difference to an answer.
Yeah. So I have always had like a strong technical ability, and that's something that I choose to grow because I do think it's valuable. Even for small indie teams I've worked on, if the sound designer has some technical ability to be able to implement their own sound, it just makes the project run smoother. The quality of the entire work goes up when people have technical prowess, especially with an engine. So I would say that it is important to sort of invest in learning those skills.
So would you say that it's important to invest in learning those skills first, or should somebody, like if somebody wants to become a game developer, should they wait, is basically what I'm saying, until they've got those skills?
No, I think that you should develop those skills in tandem with your game making abilities. I started making games when I was 12 years old with Scratch, which is kind of like block coding. And I learned, basic computer science logic from my early projects in Scratch. And I was 12, so there's super approachable tools similar to Scratch. I mean, I think Scratch still exists, and
it does, yeah.
Yeah, and there's also awesome engines that have like visual sort of interfaces, like Blueprints and Unreal. These types of tools are great, so you shouldn't wait to learn code syntax in order to start coding and start making games. I would just start as small as possible.
Okay. So there's plenty of fairy tale stories like Five Nights at Freddy's, Among Us, Balatro. They're the only examples I wrote down, so they're the only ones I'm going to mention. Do you think that these create an unrealistic, unhealthy expectation for new indie devs, or they're just aspirational and they're fine, or something in between?
Well, so I would say that I'm a part of a lot of in-person game development groups. I'm a really active member in don't know if that's doxing me, probably not. But like when I lived in the
area though.
Yeah, wide area. But yeah, so and when I was in the Bay Area working down there, I was in the Bay Area Games Collective. And I think that once you get out of the internet and into real in-person game dev meetups, they're in most major cities, you kind of see the reality of what making games is. And it's not making a magical breakout success. It's getting together with other people and just making something happen and seeing it through. So I don't necessarily think that those breakout successes are creating, maybe in some people's heads, they're creating an unrealistic expectation, but I just think that, I don't know what I'm saying. The reality of making games is a little bit different than those few, but I think most people understand that.
Okay. Do you think having a completely unique, never been done before idea is like important for an indie game developer, or is it even possible at this point with so many games out there?
Yeah, I think that having an interesting hook for your game is important, whether that's a visual hook, a narrative hook, a mechanic hook. some tiny little thing that helps you stand out amongst the massive amount of games that are being released. But I think that even with a hook, I think it's better to sort of remain in your genre. I'm sure that every person you've interviewed is on the Discord for how to market a game. Uh,
I never asked. Sorry.
oh no.
No.
But yeah, no, like I think I don't know a single indie game developer that's not in the how to market a game Discord. And that dude has the best data on like what genres are successful, what makes people wishlist a game on Steam, what makes people buy a game on Steam, and how to market your game in Steam festivals and actually get conversions. And from all the data I've seen, it seems like if your game actually has a genre and you're at least conforming to a pre-existing audience, then you have a much higher chance of being successful.
Okay. So if money stopped being any kind of concern, you can think of that however you want. You can think of it as like money for paying bills or money for funding your game, whatever that means to you. If it stopped being a concern, what would change about your game development / content creation process? Like, would it carry on as normal but just no stress because no money worries, or would you? I mean, you already mentioned that you would like to hire someone, so maybe that's something you'd change.
Yeah, I think that on the content side of things, it'd be really nice to have an editor or someone else to help take the load off of trying to be consistent, because in content, if you're not consistent, you kind of fall off really quickly. And on the game side of things, I absolutely think that solo dev is much, much worse than team dev. It's kind of like, Planet of the Apes, apes together strong. I'm like, if I had a team, I think the ideal size is like 10 people, and you have a really good project manager who can sort of help, create good documents and parallelize a lot of processes. I think that people together can make much better products. But if you're all kind of working for free and working for rev share, that doesn't quite work the same as a funded team. So, I mean, my dream would be to have a studio with like 10 people in it.
Okay. Do you find it difficult to balance creative and technical aspects? Like, a lot of people think of this as two modes, like technical and creative side of things. I don't know if you do, but like, whether you do or not, do you have any issue sort of like switching from one to the other, going from art to code or music to code or level design, I guess?
Yeah, I always say that I am a game designer that has been forced to learn code. Um, Like, ideally, I would just do level design, game design, player economy, that type of thing. But I I would say that I don't have too hard of a time switching back and forth between, okay, I need to make this architecture so that the player can drive vehicles, and then switching to, ooh, what kind of fun things can I put in the vehicles? I enjoy both sides of the coin, but if I had a team, I would definitely see myself more on the creative side. I'm always flowing with ideas, and I just don't have enough hours in the day to deliver on them all. So that's kind of where I lie on that spectrum.
Okay. So that's the end of the content creator, the indie dev only question. Sorry. So now we're into the combo questions. Was the decision to become a content creator and an indie dev at the same time, was that a conscious decision, or did they happen independently?
Yeah, I think they happened independently, and I honestly wouldn't really change that because I have a lot of friends in the game dev space right now, like from and my game dev friends kind of have this feeling like they need to be content creators, and they really don't like content creation, right? I'm very much the opposite, where I had a strong interest in content creation and a strong interest in making games from a very young age, and both of those were sort of separate interests. And it just so happened that sometime in 2020, it clicked when I was watching Twitch and I saw Lana Lux streaming, making her game. And I was like, holy cow, people watch people make games. And then 2020 was when I started streaming. And it's when I discovered a bunch of other awesome mutuals. Like at the time, it was like Vimlark, Thor, and Lana Lux were like, the people setting the stage for that being a thing, especially in the Twitch space. And I thought that was super cool. And I wanted to join in. So that was the moment where I kind of combined my two interests, but they definitely started as separate interests.
Okay. How much, if at all, do you find that content creation and game development create a sort of feedback loop? So you get like maybe somebody sees Grandma Don't Click That on Steam, like looks at you a bit closer and finds the Twitch channel or the YouTube channel and comes over there, and then vice versa. Somebody sees you on YouTube or on Twitch and then goes and finds your game. Is there kind of a reciprocal growth there?
Yeah, I definitely have seen growth. Like, if I make a really successful YouTube short, for example, I'll see a massive spike in itch.io, just like, oh, lots of people are playing my games all of a sudden. Or I'll see a small spike in wish lists. But I don't think the thing is, being a successful content creator, like so successful that it fun, like, I'm trying to find the words here. Like, being a successful indie game dev, like you were talking about those breakout games, it's like a, like 0.1% chance, maybe worse odds. Being a successful content creator is very similar bad odds. So being such a successful content creator that you can be a successful indie game creator off of that audience is hard. But on a very like small personal scale for me, I have seen growth there, and that's really exciting for me. But I wouldn't say it's like a necessary thing. Like, I could still get people to go to my game without the content, I think.
Okay. So if you were starting from scratch, like right now, and you could only choose one method of funding your game, like any method at all, but you could be guaranteed that it would work. So you snap your fingers and boom, for publishers funding your game, or you snap your fingers and you've got a 2 million subscriber YouTube channel and it's making enough to fund you. Any method you want, but only one of them. What method would you choose? Like, there's also crowdfunding, publisher.
Yeah.
I've only written those three down though.
I think if I could choose, I would probably do something like a Kickstarter. I think that successfully funded, like, if I could successfully fund a Kickstarter and then make my game, I think that's the way to go. Right now, I am supplying the money for my game through contracting and freelancing, and that's working for me right now. Definitely, my content isn't paying any sort of, well, what I'm trying to say is like the content is something that is fun, and it's not funding the game. But like, if I could choose, I wouldn't choose that my content was suddenly funding my game, because I feel like once you get to the point where your content is making you so much that it could fund something like a game, you might get so consumed with the content that you lose a little bit of that time that you would, be spending on the game in order to maintain that. So that's like, it's all about finding a balance, right?
So the next question you might have just answered. I'll ask you it anyway, but I think you've just answered it. So just let me know if you want to say anything different. But like, what would you say if somebody was going to use content creation as the model for funding their game? What would you say the biggest challenge would be? But I feel like you just answered it.
Yeah, like I said, like, making successful content does take a lot of time. And if you get to the point where you are making such successful content that it could fund your game, then you're basically trading time for money, right? And also you're trading time to sort of maintain, like I said, that consistency in your content, because the sad truth is, no matter how big your Twitch or YouTube or TikTok is, the second you stop producing content, you fall off like crazy. I remember I took a stream break in 2019 and it completely wiped me. Like, I was close to hitting Twitch partner at some point, and then I just fell off a cliff. So that kind of thing happens. Yeah. So I don't necessarily think that, like, but I don't know. So I'm trying to say that it's not like a successful way to like make enough money to cover your bills and fund a game. But I do think that content creation has been fulfilling for me and for my game dev in other ways besides like pure monetary gain. And some of that is through connections, right? Like, I've done collabs with like Mrs. and Polymars and Lanalux back in the day. And those are people that I wouldn't have met if I wasn't also in that space, right? So I think that you gain benefits other than monetary benefits from putting yourself out there and putting your content out there. You get sort of a feedback loop on just game design in general. You get you can make new friends and connections through content creation that can sort of also help your, career as a game dev, but in a different way than just, flat out numbers or flat out money.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. So this one's open-ended. You can apply whatever caveats you want to it, like any only if this or only if that kind of thing. But if somebody wants to become an indie game developer, just should they? It's a very open question.
Wow. Well, I would say yes, you should make games if you want to make games. It is, even on a hobbyist level, one of the most fulfilling creative forms and creative hobbies I've ever done. Just nothing beats the ability to sort of, put an idea together and share it with others. So I would say if you want to make a game, just start and do it. And I would never discourage anyone from making video games.
All right. Okay, so we're on to the final question. We've absolutely blown through these. So this one is the opposite of the last one. This is a very narrow, short answer that we're looking for. If you could give one short piece of advice to somebody who wants to be a game dev and content creator together, just like a one-sentence piece of advice, what would it be? And you can think about it. I'm not going to leave in any awkward pauses where people are thinking or anything like that.
Cool. I do need to think about this one. Gosh.
I think only one person has had a quick fire straight away answer. Everybody else sat there for 5 minutes.
Yeah. So what advice for making content and being a game dev together combined sort of?
So the plan for the video is at the very end there's going to be just a super cut of this answer to the question from everybody. So it needs to be a sound bite basically.
Sound bite. Yeah. Let me think.
Yeah.
I would say try making content on every platform and experiment with what kind of content you're making. Cast a wide net.
Great.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Because I'm just thinking in my own experience, I had Twitch, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. I also ran my aunt's TikTok for a while and it was crazy. You find out my aunt, she has an Etsy store and she wasn't making any sales on her jewelry. So the first TikTok shorts I ran, it was all her account and I started getting her sales and I was like, oh, I want to make TikToks. So then I started there and then I only started YouTube Shorts back in October. So the growth there has been really rapid, but it's been good.
The video game industry is currently the most lucrative entertainment market, and it's not even close. The independent video game industry alone is worth around $5 billion, and is expected to double over the next 5 years.
There's just all this insane shit over the last 5-6 years. I don't know, dude, my life's completely different now. It's a completely different time.
And I was always interested in games. I just never really thought that I could do it. I didn't think I was smart enough. I thought it would be too competitive for me to get into.
There was a lot of those conversations, and me and the co-dev that was working on Town Bells, we realized very quickly, we don't have this money, so.
I used to kind of try and troll them back, or just give them just bad information and try and play with them a little bit. But I found that is actually detrimental.
Instantly, I think the first day I streamed game development, 2 people came into my chat and they were like, shut the hell up, you stupid B word. You're not a real coder, go make me a sandwich. And I was like, bruh.
It's possible that it's a possibility that it exists, and there is a chance, but it's like winning the lottery when we talk about those kind of games.
It does take a toll a little bit on your ego when you have to hear that over and over again.
You're probably just using the whole I make games for me thing as an excuse to avoid having to face the prospect of failing. So maybe you should stop fannying about and get on with it, Beaks.